on to today. I want to introduce those of you who haven't met Brit, who is the Director of Allied Health. And Brit started work in January, so she's still a relative newbie to the hospital. She came to us from Epworth, where she worked for 6 years. She completed her physio degree at the University of Queensland. My alma mater as well. Well, one of them anyway. And has worked in the UK and moved to Melbourne in the early 2000s. She worked as a musculoskeletal physio at the Royal Melbourne Hospital for 9 years and was involved in setting up many of the advanced practice clinics, including post-arthroplasty, shoulder and OAKS that we have here at the Austin today. She was also the clinical lead for the rollout for OAKS across the state. Brit then moved into the private sector and was the Deputy Physiotherapy and Site Manager at Epworth Richmond and Epworth Hawthorn. Following this, she took up an executive role in business development and strategy at Epworth and completed her Masters in Business Administration. And last year, she returned to Allied Health as the manager at Epworth Rehabilitation. So when you hear Brit speak, she does sound funny. She's Canadian, but considers herself an Australian, which means that she supports Australia in the Summer Olympics and Canada in the Winter Olympics. But her biggest challenge, probably of all, is coaching her daughter's under-10 basketball team, which has taken her patience to a threshold not before observed. So I'd like to make Brit welcome and thank her for coming today.
Thanks, Sue, for that welcome. Thanks, everyone, for the opportunity to come and meet with you all and speak to you today. I just want to add one quick thing on the basketball note. I am recruiting a few players for my team, which is adult, not kids. So it's on a Tuesday night at MSAC. You need to be available every Tuesday night and you need to be my height or taller. So if anyone's interested, please come speak to me after this afternoon. So Sue asked me to speak to you guys a little bit about what my vision is for the Allied Health Division. So that's what we're going to do today. So one of the first exercises I had was, who are we? So we have approximately 285 EFT across the division, which equates to about 499 bodies. There's a number of people who've been here for many, many, many years. Our management team alone has 157 years of corporate knowledge. So that's an average of 17 years. And obviously there's a lot of clinicians that have also been here for significant periods of time. So my first question is, what keeps us here? Who are Allied Health as Division? Well, we have 9 departments across 3 sites. And, we have a very large department like your department, but then we also have a very small department like podiatry, who was an EFT of less than 2. So being the Allied Health Director and being responsible for advocacy across all of the disciplines, my first question is, do we actually know and understand what each of our disciplines brings, what their value is? And if we needed to, could we actually advocate on behalf of each other? Apologies for those who I've told this story to before, but when you're looking for a new job, or you're not even looking, when you're looking to apply for a job, you often troll the website of the organisation. You look and see what the place looks like, you read the strategic plan, you try and get an understanding for the people that you might be managing. So this was the one on the left, is obviously the Austin website. And under departments, I just looked up Allied Health to see, who comprised Allied Health. And of course, there wasn't anything under Allied Health. So I thought, okay, well, there's our individual disciplines. There's social work and PT and OT, but not an Allied Health presence. When I started, okay, well, let's look at the intranet, look at the hub. Similarly, there's no Allied Health presence. There's a continuing care department, there's a cancer and neurosciences, but there's not actually an Allied Health. So that sort of leads me to one of my big initial objectives. I can pick on Royal Melbourne because I worked there for many years. I went to their website and thought, okay, is this a problem that's just isolated to Austin? Obviously not, but I looked in their search function and I put in Allied Health and it came up, no, did you mean applied health? Okay, I then thought, well, oops, where's my mouse? I'd go to, a very reputable source and find out what the definition of allied health professionals are. And Wikipedia defined allied health as those that are distinct from medicine, nursing, and pharmacy. So we know what we're not. We're not any of those. And then within the first month, I was asked to review a policy for Austin Health that was written for clinical, non-medical, and non-nursing. And I thought, what is going on here? This is ridiculous. So, first objective, profile. We need to do a bit of work on our profile, and it's not obviously just Austin. It's not just Melbourne. It's a state, or it's a Australia-wide, worldwide issue that we have with allied health, because people don't understand what allied health is. I had a meeting about 5 weeks ago with the 2IC fundraising that Sue came to, and he turned around and he said, "What do allied health do?" And I thought, this is crazy. This man's been working here for a number of years, or for however long. We're one of the 3 primary caregivers to patients, and people within our own organisation don't know what we do. That's the problem. What we need to do is we need to be able to clearly articulate what our value proposition is. So what that means, well, what value do we actually bring to each of our key stakeholders? So obviously our stakeholders, we've got our patients. What is the value that we bring to each and every patient? What is the value that we bring and we add to their families? What value do we have, or do we add to our referrers, or to our other allied health, our other disciplines of allied health? We need to understand that, and we need to be able to clearly articulate that in order to work on our profile. We obviously need to understand where we fit into the big picture as well. In essence, why are we here? Why do we work in a hospital setting? Well, we know we have a highly skilled evidence-based workforce. 20% of our staff have postgrad qualifications, including 17 PhDs. We have multiple advanced practice roles. We have 1 extended scope role. And we've attained $7.17 million in research grants over the last 5 years, a lot of that within this department, actually. Those aren't insignificant numbers. We need to promote ourselves. We're not salespeople, but maybe we need to start being. Maybe we need to take a leaf from the amazing patient advocacy and put ourselves on the map in terms of, this is what we do, this is our value. We need to be more vocal and brave about being comfortable and having those conversations at those team meetings where there are other caregivers there, to the doctors, to the nurses. We need to be just as loud. I'm going to get off my soapbox now. The next clear, objective I have is around connection. So I think we need to really develop our connections with each other. It's obvious for me, having been here a short time, that there's some opportunity to work on this within allied health. And perhaps it's as a result of the fact that we've worked without an allied health, like obviously Deb was the director for the last 4 years, but prior to that there was a big gap, I believe, in terms of having one sort of central advocate person to be able to lead and drive and make sure that everyone is talking to each other and playing well, and I just think we really have some opportunities there. The really positive thing is, though, there's absolutely an appetite for all the heads of the department for that to occur, so that's fantastic. We need to continue to foster our trust and our respect for each other, so we need to appreciate the contribution that each discipline makes. That might mean we need to be better at walking in each other's shoes. And if people aren't being held, or if people aren't doing the job that they're meant to be doing, we need to be brave enough to call them on that as well and be comfortable about that. If we can get those connections with each other working better, then we also absolutely need to make sure that we're enhancing our communication, our linkages, and our profile with our other divisions, and ensuring that we are actually supporting each other and delivering our exceptional care. This is the next objective. Get Guy up. Yeah. What's the allied health talent pool look like? I don't know. Maybe there's a bit of talent sitting there on the plinth. Yeah. Or not. How do we currently identify our high performers? How do we harness talent within allied health? We need to keep looking at what are advancing and extending our scope roles if appropriate. We need to develop our research skills. So, you know, this department absolutely leads in terms of this, in this space, but we need to start, in terms of having a larger impact, we need to look at developing our research skills across the disciplines and looking at more whole of health service improvement initiatives. This is a big one. Do we think we provide contemporary models of care at the moment? I don't know. I don't think anyone, to be perfectly honest, I'm not sure that we've hit the mark from not just Austin, but across the globe in terms of how we provide healthcare. Are we truly patient-centred? I'm not convinced we're always truly patient-centred. We say we are, everyone says they are, but what does that actually mean? There was a recent example that was provided to us in the HODS meeting about a 85-year-old little Italian lady at REPAT who was across the ward from a 25-year-old male, and she had the curtains all drawn around her because she didn't want to be seeing directly into the male of someone who was into the eyes of someone who was 60 years younger than her. Obviously, there's a lot of risk associated. We've got patients feeling they need to cordon themselves off. There's 4 bedrooms, that's never going to be ideal, but there are things I'm sure that we can do in this space to improve. The healthcare in general is not getting cheaper, it's just getting more and more and more expensive, and obviously there is never enough investment in IT. We know that here as a prime example. I'm looking at Jolene. It's not going to get cheaper, it's going to get more expensive, and we've got an aged community. I think the peak age is going to be in 12 years or so. Now we've got more 80-year-olds than we have 20-year-olds, and people are living longer, but they're more complex. So we really need to look at how we actually deliver care to those patients. And how we're currently delivering care, we're not going to be able to sustain it. So we need to think a little bit more cleverly about that. Now, you guys have done that. You did that a few years ago. You looked at your workforce and you moved people around, and that was very innovative. And, you know, obviously hats off to Sue and the team for making that happen. Is this something maybe we need to do across allied health potentially? Maybe. We've got some pretty critical people in our team with our allied health assistants that, you know, are we using them optimally, or do we need to continue to develop their skills and their roles and make their roles a little bit more interesting, engaging, so that they stay for longer? Do we really need to look at becoming more discharge specialists? We know that's what we do really well. Do we need to start a project where we're actually leading the discharge and we're not waiting for the medicos to sign off and then everyone starts scurrying around? Maybe. The next one's probably the biggest point, really. There's going to be more and more care that's delivered in the community. We need to start moving to that space. We need to start thinking about how we can improve our alliances with our health independence programs and with the primary care. The last one for me is around engagement. Obviously, for any of this to happen, we need to have engaged staff. These are your results, I believe, from last year. You know, allied health feature pretty well. I think we do really, we have a really engaged workforce. We always put our hands up to do things. We're above all the benchmarks from an organisational perspective. And the most amazing thing on this slide is that 98% actually believe, 98% of you believe the work you do is important, which is fantastic. There's not many people, I think, that could say that if we're looking outside across other industries. We do have a little bit of work to do there, maybe, in terms of the recognition that we're providing to staff for all the great work they do. But that's absolutely an area that we need to continue to really hit high on. In a nutshell, improve our profile, improve our connections, develop our capabilities, look at trialling some more innovative models of care, and some of you or most of you might know now we're looking at piloting an interdisciplinary role in our in a new medical assessment unit coming up. So, you know, maybe there's some opportunity there in some specific areas, and obviously engagement. I'm going to use this opportunity to promote our new values that are just being rolled out this week. Mel's got the t-shirt to put on later. So there's going to be a number of things that will happen in the next sort of 4 or 5 weeks, a number of activities that I encourage you all to get involved in. Obviously, these are just words on a page at the moment, but we really need to bring these to life. The other quick thing I just want to say, which I'm not sure if you know about this, but maybe 18 months ago to 2 years, the DHHS put out a position paper on who's included within allied health, and they delineated between therapies and sciences. And at the beginning of this year, Austin was granted with a grant to put a allied health science educator in place. His name is Drew Smith. So he started in February, I believe. He is a radiation therapist here, and his initial job is really to map out who are the sciences within Austin Health, because no one really knows. But we might look at maybe some opportunities to link in with some of the sciences. I just wanted to finish on this video. It's only 2 minutes, but it's a video about that I came upon last year when I was doing a compassionate leadership course, and I just think it's lovely, and I also think it really speaks to how we better connect with each other. Now, Jolene, don't let me down.
So what is empathy, and why is it very different than sympathy? Empathy fuels connection. Sympathy drives disconnection. Empathy, it's very interesting. Teresa Wiseman is a nursing scholar who studied professions, very diverse professions where empathy is relevant, and came up with 4 qualities of empathy. Perspective taking, the ability to take the perspective of another person or recognize their perspective as their truth. Staying out of judgment, not easy when you enjoy it as much as most of us do. Recognizing emotion in other people and then communicating that. Empathy is feeling with people. And to me, I always think of empathy as this kind of sacred space when someone's kind of in a deep hole and they shout out from the bottom and they say, I'm stuck, it's dark, I'm overwhelmed. And then we look and we say, hey, you climb down. I know what it's like down here, and you're not alone. Sympathy is, ooh, it's bad, no, you want a sandwich? Empathy is a choice, and it's a vulnerable choice, because in order to connect with you, I have to connect with something in myself that knows that feeling. Rarely, if ever, does an empathic response begin with at least. And we do it all the time. Because you know what? Someone just shared something with us that's incredibly painful, and we're trying to silver lining it. I don't think that's a verb, but I'm using it as one. We're trying to put the silver lining around it. So, I had a miscarriage. Oh, at least you know you can get pregnant. I think my marriage is falling apart. At least you have a marriage. John's getting kicked out of school. At least Sarah is an A student. But one of the things we do sometimes in the face of very difficult conversations is we try to make things better. If I share something with you that's very difficult, I'd rather you say, I don't even know what to say right now, I'm just so glad you told me. Because the truth is, rarely can a response make something better. What makes something better is connection.